All right, here we go. This is going to be a short little lecture here. I have attempted to recreate this picture on the whiteboard here. Picture from the problem set. 2.1. Because if I point this computer at the whiteboard, it is like looking into a lamp. And it's hard to see. So, all right. Some notation. You guys have all seen Mean Girls, right?
Yeah.
You guys know what that movie's about?
Mean Girls. Yeah, it's about limits.
It's about limits. Yeah, it's about a limit. It's about a girl's journey to determine that a limit does not exist.
Yeah, that's what it's about. The hero's journey.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey. So, rising action, etc. Call to adventure. The limit does not exist. Denouement, right? Right, Julia? Julia agrees. Okay. Yay! Okay. So this notation here, the way you read this, and it's probably very new to you. Has anyone ever seen this notation?
No.
I don't think so. This says the limit of this thing, in this case it's the function that's being graphed. What's the limit of f of x as x approaches 5 from the right? That little arrow means approaches. Like we've been doing that before with end behavior. The arrow means approaches.
Yep.
What?
I'm crying. I don't get this.
We've been talking about it for a minute and 20 seconds. Just give it some time. Okay. As x approaches 5 from the right. Now let's say we are on this graph.
I don't know my right hand.
Yes, you do.
I think I need a note, but.
Okay. Peace out. Let's say I was a point on this graph, and I wanted my x value to approach 5 from the right. Do you guys see on the graph where I'd be?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like here. Here's me. Because this right here is 5, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
So when you're what does it mean approaching from the left?
Approaching. So let's say this is me, and I approach. I'd be moving to the left. This is where it might get a little confusing. This little plus sign means from the right, not to the right.
When it's in my head, it's to the right.
From the left.
Always think of it as from the right, from the left. Because the plus means I'm thinking about x values that are a little bit bigger than 5. So let me ask you this question. Based on this graph, the way it's drawn, on your paper there's a grid, so it's a little bit easier to see. What would it be if I said f of let's say 5.0001? What do you guys think the answer would be pretty close to, based on the graph? Huh? 2.
Wait, what?
The y value.
Oh.
Let's clarify this. So when I say f, so guys, what if I said what's f of 5? By the way, that's question D is f of 5. F of 5 means you go to 5 on the x-axis and you look at what's the y value, right? It's not. So don't forget your basics.
Wait, you're saying look at 5 and then what's the y value? It's 0.
It's 0.
No. Wait, we're looking at the same thing, right?
Yeah, but like one.
Go over to 5.
What are you looking at?
Okay, yeah, if it's
clear or like
This
and
dot.
then you go up? Like what are we trying to do?
Okay, so when we say f of 5 is 2, that's because if you go to 5 on the x-axis and you go to where the function is, that's a hole there, so there's not a point there. You go to there and you say, well, the y value there is 2. Let's do a simpler one. What do you guys think f of 6 is?
Wouldn't it just be 3?
3.
Why?
So because if you go over to 6 and then you go to where the function is at 6, the y value there, do you see on your grid
Oh.
how it's at 3? So like for example, f of 6 is 3. Let's do a couple more of this. What's f of negative 4? 1. Good. What's f of negative or what's f of 0?
5.
Okay, so have we cleared that up?
What about when there's a 4?
This is a wacky.
If there's a hole, then the function's not.
2.
Right, so f of 2, we'll get to that. It's undefined because there's actually a hole there. Okay. We need to come back to this limit thing. So now does it make sense? And if I said, what if I were to plug in a number very, very close to the right though of 5? So 5.0001. You understand what that means now?
Yes.
That means I'd be really close to this point here, which has a y value of 2. So what that means is that the limit, as we're getting really, really close to 5 from the right, is 2. So that's the answer to the first question. Yep, equals 2. The next question asks, what's the limit as x approaches 5 from the left? So now we're asking, suppose for a moment that now we are over here, right?
Oh, you don't.
So someone give me an x value that I might be kind of thinking about in the back of my head. If I want to approach 5 from the left side of 5.
Like 1, but it's not.
1's way over here. That's way
Or
too
not
far.
1, but 4?
4 is still pretty far. How about 4.9999? How about that?
It would be like 1.
Right. Oh, negative 1. Right. Do you guys understand that? So if x was 4.9999, my y value is awfully close to negative 1. So this limit.
So does that mean it's
No, it's like right
this is
before.
where it gets interesting. So a limit. So the thing that makes a limit is we're talking about as we approach that value. We don't actually care what happens at 5. What we care about is what happens as you approach 5, but never quite get to 5. So, so we'll get to the next thing we're going to talk about is at 2. 2 is pretty interesting as well. So before we move on, does it make some sense why? Does it make sense why the answer to this one is 2 and the answer to this one is negative 1? Or do we need to clarify anything? Sure that makes sense?
I think
Okay.
it's-
So
Bless you.
how about f of 5? We got that a second ago. F of 5 is actually 2 because there's a solid dot there. So the solid dot, when you go over to 5, you say, well, there's a hole down there, so that's not where I go. I go up and look at that solid dot. There's my y value, 2. If there's no solid dot to look at, there's no like actual points of, so in the case of like f of 2, there's just a hole there, then you just have does not exist. Does anyone know another x value where the function doesn't exist?
F of -1. Nope.
Negative 1's actually got that sneaky dot down there. F of 3, very good, 3. There's an asymptote there. Okay, let's do this.
So F of 3 would be undefined.
True, yes. How about this though? What is now, this is where you guys get to be Lindsay Lohans.
I don't like her. She's a druggie.
In Mean Girls, before she did all that stuff. In Mean Girls. So in Mean Girls, in the greatest shot in cinema history, Lindsay Lohan says, the limit does not exist. You guys seen this movie, right?
Yeah.
Alexa? Remember that scene?
No.
The limit does not exist. No, that's the worst. Anyway, so
I remember it.
this is, I'll give you an informal definition to start, okay? If for the limit to exist, you have to have the same limit from the right and the left. So both sides of the function have to come and converge to a single value,
So like,
okay?
can you give us an example?
So like at 2, the limit's gonna exist. In fact, on this one, how about even at like, the next,
I thought you said 2 was undefined.
don't worry, we'll get there. When I say the limit exists, so if your function does this, see that?
Oh.
If you're approaching the same value from both sides, the limit exists.
Oh.
But if
okay.
you're approaching 2 different values, like in this case, we're approaching 2 from the right and -1 from the left. So if you ever have this going on or this, the limit does not exist. So this one, you just say, it's not really an equal sign, it's
What number is that? Or what letter?
this is the next one.
Oh, C.
Does not exist. Okay? So just to recap, the answer to A is 2. The answer to B is -1. The answer to C is does not exist. And the answer to D is 2. All right, let's look at. Okay, we can finish up the E, F, G, and H now. And then we'll be done. Yep, D is 2. Okay, now let's compare that to what's happening when X is 2. Look now, direct your attention over here. What's the limit? So let's say I'm approaching 2 from the left-hand side. What kind of Y values am I getting close to? 1. So the limit of the function as X approaches 2 from the left is 1. How about the limit as we approach the function? As the limit of the function as X approaches 2 from the right.
Wouldn't it just be 1?
Same thing, right? You guys see how if I move to the right-hand side of 1, I'm still approaching the exact same Y value. So now what this means, I've got this, you guys are going to see me doing this a lot. This means if my right limit and my left limit are the same, if I'm approaching the same value for both sides, the limit exists. So I can say the limit as X approaches 2 is 1. Last thing, F of 2 does not exist though, or is undefined.
Oh, because it's a hole.
Because yeah, you go, oh, when X is 2, where's my Y value? I don't see any. There's a hole there. There's no Y value to talk about.
Can I take out the one?
Yeah. That's it. That's the stream. Thanks for the gifted sub.